Content presented on the following show by any host or by any guest should be used solely for your entertainment and enjoyment. The views and opinions of the following show are not necessarily those of the Whole Care Network, other show hosts on the Whole Care Network, or advertisers on the Whole Care Network. Shows on the Whole Care Network are not intended to treat, diagnose, or claim to cure any disease or condition. Always consult a professional when making any changes to your physical, spiritual, mental, or financial health. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Ties 2.0, featured on the Whole Care Network. I'm your host, Christopher McClellan. You just might know me as the Bowtie Guy. On Healing Ties 2.0, we visit with people from all over the globe who share their stories because it's through story sharing where diversity meets the road to collaborate on a common cause. And our common cause is supporting caregivers before, during, and after caregiving ends. Caregiving is not just a local issue. It's a universal issue that brings people together from diverse backgrounds and beliefs because the best information and referrals caregivers receive are from other caregivers who have been on their own personal caregiving journey, who understand where you've been and where you are going. And on Healing Ties, we take it a step further and ask, beyond caregiving, how do we care? How do we care for ourselves, our family, our neighbors, and our friends? How do we heal the social, the physical, the financial, the spiritual aspects of our lives? We do this by creating healing ties with each other. On today's episode, I am excited to feature author Deb Holton-Smith and Jan Martin. I am really looking forward to our conversation today. I really like it when people just appear out of the sky blue, and even though you can't see us today, we're all wearing blue. But you get to meet people in this caregiving sphere, and even though you don't really know them, after you have a 5-minute conversation, you're like best friends forever. And that's kind of how I'm going to start my conversation today with Deb and Jan. Deb Holton-Smith is an accomplished photographer, certified health coach, and cancer nurse, educator, hospice, end-of-life doula. Now, we're going to be talking about that word doula. Jan Martin is a social worker, youth service counselor, and intervention specialist. Their passion for people as coaches and counselors sparked their desire to create the Teacup Project, realizing that our seniors have so many colorful stories and secrets to share. They wanted to connect families, friends, and caretakers to spend precious time, possibly over a cup of tea, and to reignite these memories. Deb and Jan, I got to get my cup of tea, but I'm welcoming you to the show. It's great to have both of you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we're happy to be here sipping tea together.
Sipping tea. So what flavor should we have today? Earl Grey or something a little bit more soothing?
I personally like red zinger.
Now, next time we do this, we'll have to wear red.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm good with Earl Grey.
You're good with Earl Grey? It's funny, my parents they were tea drinkers. I never started drinking coffee until I was in my 30s or 40s, but I never grew up around coffee. It was all tea. Tea has that calming effect on you.
It does. It's very social. It's calming. It makes people gather.
And tea would make you talk about yourself and the person you're with.
Well, of course, then if we were in England, we'd be having a spot of tea, and then that really does get us into the conversation. Yeah. So, how did the two of you meet? What's the connection there?
Well, the connection is about 6 years ago. This is Deb talking. I moved to Florida. I'm a Vermont via way of New York, via way down to Florida gal, and moved into this beautiful neighborhood with a canopy of trees and white picket fences. And it just so happens that about 6 houses down is this beautiful woman named Jan Martin,
who came here 8 years ago from Cleveland, Ohio. And both of us liking people, we immediately had to meet each other, being
Yes.
new. And you know what? It's like everything else. When there's chemistry.
Fast friendship.
Yes.
And I would imagine that friendship has developed over the years with a spot of tea here and there, but you've written a wonderful book as well.
Yes, we have. It was a passion of love to write this book and to author it together, which is even more special because as special friends, having something that we can share with our families and friends and caregivers just made a lot of sense.
Especially when you think about like the story that you've told me about the two of you meeting and how important it is for us to share our stories.
Yes.
And that really is the concept of your book, if I understand it correctly. I think I do.
Yes, you do. It's the sharing of stories that really are close to your heart, that are keepsake stories, we like to say, especially with our seniors, our elderly, our wise folk that sometimes in the rush of the day or society are put aside. And we really wanted to bring to light their wisdom and have them come alive with everything that they know and can share, like the good old days when grandparents used to live in the same house.
That's true.
And the children would hear the stories over and over again. They grew up with that. But in today's society, everybody is transient and spread out. So grandparents are often left not by the wayside, but just out of the way.
Out of the way and invisible for some of them. They feel invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how this whole concept started, because we're both people. And a third friend of ours ended up in the hospital with emergency surgery and went to a rehab. And this person, we went to visit her, and she was in tears. And she said, "Nobody talks to me. I'm laying here trying to get better. And I've never been so alone and scared."
So what we decided was she was such a vibrant person, except for in this particular time, she was in a bathrobe, looked like a little lady stuck in her room. But we knew her as Dr. Mag, and we knew that she was a Jersey girl, that she had 3 sons that she was very proud of, 2 poodles, was a golfer, and very much alive, except for post-surgery. She was recovering. So we decided we needed to let the world know who she was. So we created this little bio page that we put on her door. And when the staff and other residents walked by the door, they could see it was the Jersey girl, and people just treated her completely different. And she came alive, and she said the whole experience there changed because just with those short key words of who she was, it made her a person.
And people always are interested from where you come. And other New Yorkers would go in her room, other professionals. She had a purpose also, rather than rehab. And she became engaged, which helped her
Healing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And helped her get out of isolation.
Absolutely.
Isolation is, for our seniors and caregivers as well, isolation is really, it causes so much anguish.
And depression.
And despair and depression. And to be able to recognize and have a starting point in a conversation.
So that reminds me of when I was a teenager working in a nursing home. And in Vermont, there was this woman who moved in with a suitcase. She had no family, no friends around. And I bopped into the room and started helping her to unpack. And she was very depressed that she had to reside there. And I pulled out a picture and I said, "Oh my goodness, look at this beautiful woman. Who is this?" She goes, "That's me." That I said, where was this taken? Actually, I was a Rockette in New York City.
Oh my goodness.
Is that so cool? And I'm like, a Rockette? Wow. And so who would have thought in this beautiful little town in Vermont that we would have a famous Rockette? So I asked her to tell us all about what it was like. And she came to life. Her eyes sparkled. She smiled. She sat up. We pulled the curtains open and the sun came in. And that's really what our book is about, because we want to bring to light who they are. So we created, it's called My Journey, Share Your Keepsake Stories. And it's really a journal. People can either write in it, or family caretakers can sit there and ask prompting questions.
And sometimes, if you're a caretaker particularly, and you're with this person every day, you run out of conversation. So you can open this journal to any page and find an interesting question. And we did a pilot group to where we had a different people in the community. And for example, one man asked another man, did you have a nickname growing up? And he said, yes, I did, Buck. Oh my goodness, where did that name come from? And the man said, when I was 7 or 8, and he laughed and he said, I can visualize my cowboy boots, my chaps, my 2 guns I wore at my hips, my cowboy hat, and my dad called me Buckaroo. And that name Buck has stuck with me all through my life.
And even his wife didn't know that. And his kids, he never shared. No one ever asked, where did the name come from?
Nobody probably ever asked him.
Right. But he was like a little kid when he was telling us about it.
He loved telling the story. Loved it. All of us have things that we've forgotten. And once you touch on certain questions or whatever, just like your favorite color. I wish I knew my mother's favorite color. That's a question I never asked her.
Oh my God. I didn't know my mother's favorite color, come to think of it.
I asked my mom that just the other day, because now we have this book in our hand, and she said it's green. And I'm like, maybe that's why my favorite color is green. It's a fun book. And throughout the entire, as you're questioning it, each page has a vibrant photo that has been watercolored. So it's very nostalgic. Right. So it evokes emotion. There's a picture of a barn in a field, and opposite page has New York City. And so we asked the question, are you a city or a country mouse? And tell us why. And maybe you like both. Those are the kinds of fun categories. We have things like family origins, talk about your childhood, places you've lived, homes that you've had, school, career. Tell us about the loves of your life. It just goes all the way down through grandchildren, where they've traveled, what their politics are, what kinds of advice do they have for people. Yeah, it's really a fun book.
It's not only a conversation starter, it's a keepsake.
It is a keepsake.
And one of the people in our focus group happened to be a minister. And he was just blown away by this, because he said, here in Florida is, what do they call it, God's waiting place?
There's a lot of descriptions for Florida.
That's right.
That would be one of the top ones on the list, yes.
But at any rate, most of the children live somewhere else. And if something happens to somebody and there is a death, unfortunately, the children are called in, the family's called in. And he said oftentimes they're too upset, they're too stressed to give him what he really needs to do a ceremony or a eulogy. But if this book were filled out and he had this from the patient, he would be ahead of the game. And then the family could add their own personal clips to it.
That actually brings to mind, we were talking, Jan and I, about how obituaries, you learn so much about people. And we had a neighbor who we didn't know until she had passed that she founded a girls skating program that was a leadership and motivation and really helped girls all throughout Chicago. And we had no idea that she had done that and it was her passion until it was too late.
Yes. We learned that after the fact. And one of my good friends was a winner of the Olympics ice skating, and I could have put them together. But
oh, wow. Yeah.
So this book really does bring to light. And it also, there's a question near the back that says, who do you miss that you would like to be in touch with? Because it's never too late to be in touch with old friends.
Never.
And maybe the family could make those connections and make the call and get the old friends talking and together.
Oh, goodness, that resonates with me, because especially what we're trying to do here on the network is give people an outlet to share their stories. It's sure you've heard this before because you're in the story sharing business. Everybody has a story, but not everybody gets a chance to tell their story.
Right.
And then when they tell their story, then we find out that we're not all that different when you really get down to it. Yeah, we have different traits, different likes and dislikes, different beliefs, but the core is always there. We, especially as it relates to care, we want to care as much best as we can for the person that's entrusted in our care. We want to have the commitment, the validation, all those things, and it always comes back to the story sharing, getting to know that person, and then we realize that, oh my goodness, we're really not that different. And to be able to go back in history and thinking about people that you'd like to talk to, and for some reason you've lost touch.
Yes.
And now with social media, it's easy. If you've got the name, you could find the person.
You can these days. And it's so rewarding to see. My mom is 86 and she has a long lost cousin that she used to talk about. So the other day I said, Mom, have you ever thought about contacting Leo? And she's, oh, do you think he would want to talk to me? I'm like, good grief, yes. Of course he would want to talk to you. You guys used to play together as kids. So we called Leo. Leo was elated. And it was just a very special. Mm-hmm. But if I had not asked Mom about that, she and Leo would never have connected because she just didn't think to do that.
I have an idea.
What?
I think we should invite your mom and Leo onto a podcast with the two of you.
Ooh, wouldn't that be fun?
Would that be fun?
That would be fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because can you just? I don't know either one of them, but I can envision how this conversation is going to go. It's like long lost friends.
It would be special.
That would be great.
Just I'll have my people talk to your people, and we'll get this scheduled.
I love the connections.
But go ahead.
No, I interrupted you.
We had lunch today with a 96-year-old woman, mm-hmm. and we gave her the book as a present for her birthday. And in the conversation, she started talking about during the Second World War and stamping on the tin cans and taking both ends off and how they did things, and brought back the recollection of my parents behaving like that. And we talked about that our own children and our grandchildren don't know about that. And
I get it. If my parents were alive today, they'd both be over 100.
Wow.
Mine too.
And talk about two people that never shared their history.
Yeah.
I had 13 aunts and uncles in Canada.
Oh my goodness.
Know very little about them. My sisters have tried to be better at sharing stories, even if they embellish the ones about me. But it's just so important to be able to share that history and get to know those people in your family and your background that you can continue on with the legacy.
It is such a legacy, and it's such a beautiful thing. And that's why we have our website is called www.teacupproject.com. It brings the tea together.
Brings the tea.
In
Wonderful and beautiful tea leaves.
Yes. And when we send out the book, we're even thinking of putting a couple of tea bags in.
Yes, we were thinking a couple of tea bags.
I like that idea.
Isn't that great?
Finding a tea company that wants to be recognized, or we'd love to find a new startup tea company.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll help you out with that.
Okay.
We could do that with the network.
That sounds wonderful. Wouldn't that be neat to support the tea company that's starting up, and it gives the impression that take the time to sit down, put the phones away, pull the book out. And here's another story that I wanted to cry the other day when my friend called me and then she sent me a picture of her and her mom with the book. Her mom has some dementia. But when they started reminiscing with my journey, Share Your Keepsake Stories, Mom was as clear as day with what she remembered, because she may not remember what she ate for breakfast, but she certainly remembered her cousin Tommy. And another friend told me that she had no idea that her mom was born in a snowstorm at her cousin's house. She said she never knew the story of her mother's birth. And they got so excited that now every night they take one page out of the book and they have their tea, and Mom is looking forward to Susie coming over every night to listen to more stories.
Oh, goodness. I'm so glad I ran into the two of you. This is just terrific. You're really providing a wonderful service for not only the seniors who are sharing their stories, but goodness, everybody that is reading them.
And sometimes the grandchildren go to visit the grandparent, and they are uncomfortable. They run out of things to talk about, and all they have to do is pick up this book and open it to a page, which absolutely brings peace and tranquility and calmness to the conversation.
So, Chris,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Here's when she was talking about the teenagers, I just wanted to mention, I have a friend who works in New York Community Center as a director, and she is taking this book, and she has a teen leadership course this summer. She is going to have them find a senior in the community and spend 4 weeks over tea, having a discussion where they can fill out some of the pages in the book. And it helps the teen leaders to learn really how to talk to the wise seniors in town. And then they're going to invite the mayor and all of the town officials to come to a special ceremony where the teens talk about their experience, and they're going to be offering the book to their senior partner. And what a beautiful thing.
Oh, that is very beautiful. And I was going to ask you about the Teen Academy. So this is great that we're in so much synergy, but there's a whole, my mind is starting to come with overflow with ideas, but there's just in the intergenerational component of what that does, where teenagers or high school folks who are aspiring to work in senior related areas, it helps breaks down that barrier.
It does.
It does. And it takes the teenagers and that generation off their phones. They have to put their phones down and engage, which...
Talk to somebody live?
Yeah, can you imagine?
You mean go out and play a game at the park without an electronic device and talk?
Yeah. Can you imagine eye to eye instead of eye to phone?
Eye to phone, that's iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
I got it. So I've got to ask, and I'm going to, we both get to answer. Do you have, out of all the categories in the book, is there one category that you just want to go to the first time you talk to somebody, or do Do you have one that's favorite? I know one that I have right off the top of my head, but I'd like to hear if you've got one.
Do you have one, Jan?
I'm a foodie, so I love to hear about people's foods and from where they came and what they like to eat and their background with it and why they like this and don't like that. Everybody has a story about how they had to sit at the table as a child until they ate everything off their plate or they'd be there till tomorrow.
And we even ask, did they grow up with china, pottery, paper plates, plastic? We even ask those questions.
Yeah.
Speaking of food.
Are all of the above.
They're all of the above
yes,
these days.
Yes.
So one of my favorite categories is grandchildren, because I am a new grandmother.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. She's 15 months old. And of course, what every grandmother loves to do is brag about their children and their grandchildren. And so that kind of stands out for me.
Well, the one I like is places lived in homes. I'm the youngest of 6, but with that, there's anywhere from 8 to 18 years difference between me and my siblings.
Wow.
So my story of home is different than theirs, even though it was with all the same parents. So I would love to be able to give them the book and have them go through this and then compare notes.
That would be so fun, wouldn't it?
That would be, well, it'd be fun for me. I'm not so sure about them, but it would be. Because we do have different recollections.
Yes.
And it can open up conversations.
It does. And I even have different recollections from my mother. And she'd say, no, honey, that's not how it went. And I'm like, well, Mom, tell me, because I don't remember. She remembers.
My son saw the same incident. It's 2 different sides.
Yes.
Just like, everybody sees it, how they see it.
This is just terrific to have this tool that people, families, community centers, senior living centers can use to help drum up wonderful conversations amongst people. Goodness, what a great job you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It took us a long time to put this together. It really took us about 2 years, and then COVID hit, and then our printer got shut down, and then it was a slow boat to get here. And then in New York City, there was a snowstorm, and so the books in the harbor for a month, 2 weeks. But we just have totally enjoyed ourselves. And
yes, and we're so excited to be speaking with you.
That's my honor, and I'm happy to have you a part of the Whole Care Network, and we'd like to help you promote your book. And I've got ideas coming out of my bald head about how we can help you with this. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask. I mentioned this in the opening, and it's somewhat relatable. But Dad, tell me about end-of-life doula.
so
I've been involved in hospice with CPE, and I'm just fascinated because I've not heard that word before.
in my cancer nurse experience, which I absolutely, totally loved very much, caring for families, helping them through all aspects of the death and dying, I became an expert in fact, I even met Kubler-Ross, who authored On Death and Dying. And
Yes.
yes, she was an amazing woman. And so end-of-life doula is a specialist who just helps families and their loved ones through the time. And you know what that's like, Chris, how sometimes you feel so many emotions, and we help with all of that. And it's really being the support system that families are looking for and that patients are leaning on. And it's a very special time. I have enjoyed it so much, being able to help ease the pain with someone who cares, who has just words of wisdom to help people get through what they're going through.
And just to be there at that time, I feel there's no greater honor bestowed on us than to be with another person when life transitions.
Yes.
Yes.
And
I love that life transitioning.
I love that. That is great.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
It is good.
life transitions. We just learn to love them in another way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I've just met you guys and we're already best friends. How does this happen?
It's we all have the passion for others, and that's what this book shows, and it helps with connections. And yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, it's very special.
Yeah. So let our listeners know how they can purchase the book, find you online, and you'll eventually have a landing page and all information on the Whole Care Network as well. But let's get all that important information out so people can get this great book in their hands.
Okay, so people can either call us in the number 941-777-4757. Again, 941-777-4757. And our website is www.teacupproject.com.
The
You can
teacupproject.com.
Off the website.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy to order.
Very easy to order. Yeah.
Locally, we have in the Sarasota, Florida area, we have different gift stores that are carrying the books. We even have a bookstore in Vermont, but the easiest right now is www.teacupproject.com.
I am looking forward to getting a copy myself and collaborating with the two of you on some future podcasts and events. And I'm just tickled that we've had the opportunity to visit today.
As our gift to you for having us, we will send you personal autograph book.
Yes, we will do that.
Lovely. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deb and Jan, by the work, the love, the care, and commitment that the two of you show, you are certainly two people who are creating healing ties all around us. I can't thank you enough for joining me today.
Thank you for having us so much.
Yes, thank you. It was very enjoyable.
Okay, that does it for this episode of Healing Ties. I'm your host, Christopher McClellan, the Bowtie Guy. I'm creating a life to love after caregiving ends through writing, radio, travel, advocacy, and being with awesome people like Jan and Deb. Healing Ties is brought to you by the Whole Care Network, and we'll see you for another episode of Healing Ties real soon. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.